Hello there, folks. This is Mark Smith with Family Tree Brand Life Coaches. Been a little while since I've done a show. Um, can everybody hear me okay? Move the camera just a wee bit. I've had a bit of a rough day. You ever have a day where like a million little tiny things went wrong all in the same day? I had that day today, but still a good day. Still a good day. So there's 5 of you here on board thus far. I don't think I've ever done the show from this device, my main Skype TV. We normally use an iPad, so I'm feeling a little awkward, a little uncomfortable with it, but we'll get used to it. Hey, look at my thing I got. Brenda and I went to San Francisco, and I got a new little necklace thing that I'm digging. So, somebody say hello out there. Hello. Hey, Marlene. Hey. Hi, Sarah. So what I'm going to do tonight, many of you saw the video I made recently. Mo Mannix, sorry for your rough day. Thank you. Carol Peterson, good evening. Dear Mark, so glad to see you. I made a video basically responding to a guy that I called Mike. Since then, Mike has said I can use his real name, which is actually Matthew. And I got to let Mr. Pauly in. He's scratching at the door. So you guys will get to see Mr. Pauly walk through. Dude, come on in. Hold that thought. Sarah's going through a rough spot. There's my wife with her wrench. There's Mr. Pauly. So I got another response from Mike/Matthew that I want to respond to. So I'm going to go through and respond to an email, but the theme is again that narcissistic abuse is spiritual wounding, and there's a lot in it about. Here's Blanky. I like the name. Hello. So then I also have another fellow to respond to. Annie Chiquita. Good evening. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this part of the show. Hold on to your questions, and then we'll get into questions, and I'll answer this other guy's thing. So Matthew says, thank you, Mark, for hearing me. It's always nice to be heard, isn't it? That means a lot. I want people to hear my story. Ah! The microphone broke. Darn it all. That wasn't good. Can you guys hear me okay? Sarah says we called blankets nappies. Okay, you can hear me all right. I want people to hear my story. Each time I am a little bit less of a victim. Each time he tells his story, a little less exploited. And so what I would say is that nobody gets exploited in a relationship. How's that for a message to a group that's centered around narcissistic abuse? Nobody gets exploited. As an adult, we all sign up, sign on, buy the t-shirt. Uh, Matthew says, I will not be silenced. I will be looking forward to your video and I'm grateful. You may use my name if you wish. I want everyone to know what happened to me. I am not, I think there's a blank here, but I am not ashamed, I think is what he wrote. My intent was honest and my love was true. Isn't that poetic? My intent was honest and my love was true. I never misrepresent myself to anyone. Keep up the good fight, he says. Mark, I truly appreciate you addressing my comments and your thoughts. I need all the help and perspectives that I can get. Please remember that you have not heard my full story. Maybe the details are irrelevant in the broader scope of my issues. I really don't know what to think or believe at this point. You have suggested that abandonment issues are at the root of my experience. Blanky says they weren't here since the last time was 2018. She don't want to distract me, but I've grown younger. I have been on the keto diet. Are you guys familiar with the keto diet? I have lost 20 pounds I eat fish and I eat vegetables and I eat eggs and I eat cheese, I eat nuts, and that's about it. So, and I feel fantastic and I'm playing better basketball. But I got distracted. But thank you. Thank you. I suggested that abandonment issues are at the root of Matthew's experience. Hey, Ginger. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's fun to lose weight. Are you supposed to do the keto diet short term? No, it's meant to be a lifelong thing. But you soften it up a little bit. You don't hit it quite as hard. But I love it. It's really working. It's been the easiest and the most effective diet I've ever been on. So anyway, that I consciously sought this out. You believe that parental issues are at the core of these experiences. I have yet to recognize this in myself. Possibly I am so blind that I am unable to do this, or maybe I don't have the emotional knowledge to enable me to own it. I had good relationships with both of my parents. My story is not your story. I have made the correlation between the disturbed woman that I was involved with that has damaged me and my growing up with a disturbed older brother who was extremely emotionally and physically abusive. So Matthew brings up a good point. It doesn't happen very often in my experience, but sometimes the abuse comes from a sibling and not from a parent. But who are the architects of the family? The sibling, not so much. The architects of the family are mom and dad. Why was there a kid in the family raised who became a monster? Were they just born a monster? Or was there some unconscious freaky shit going on? Is the sibling a flying monkey? I don't know. He didn't, it could be. But there are family dynamics where maybe the parents aren't the ones who do the abuse, but they created the kid. The kid is acting out on some kind of emotional pain. So, so Matthew says, I see the correlation between my brother, but I don't understand it. This woman who I speak of, she sought me out. How many of you in your involvement with a narcissist were sought out? I mean, it happens. It's pretty common. She pursued me. So Matthew's saying because he was sought out and because she pursued him, that it's not quite so bad. He says she forced her way into my life. Nobody can force themselves into your life. Let me say this again. Nobody can force themselves into your life. If they break in your front door using a gun, then they can force themselves very much so into your life. But if they ask you out on a date and you say yes, and you go with them again and again and again, and you develop a sexual relationship with them, and then you slowly move into realizing that they're very much like the parents that you grew up with. Play with my magic wand tonight. Isn't that pretty? Not every therapist has a magic wand. So she forced her way into my life. Never happened in the history of couples on this planet. Nobody forces their way into your life. It feels like they forced your way into your life, but it's just not true. Dan says, strange the parents were blind to one of their kids' abusive behavior. That's what I'm saying, Dan. Thank you. Kira, hello, everybody. So happy to have caught the live stream. Well, we're happy to have you here. She forced her way into my life. She pretended to be somebody I would be interested in. So the question is, whose job is it to protect you? It's not her job. It's your job. Whose job is it to recognize danger? It's your job. Ain't nobody in this life going to recognize danger for you if you don't do it for your own self. That's the truth. She groomed me with gifts. She groomed me with a silver tongue. And she groomed me with sex. I don't mean to be harsh with Matthew, but sometimes in exploring the truth with clients of mine, we're geared to not know the truth. We're geared to hide from the truth about ourselves. So sometimes for me to reach in and grab somebody's heart out of their chest, I've got to have a little edge. So I'm going to bring a little edge here tonight. I explained to her before I allowed her and her daughters into my life that I was fragile and vulnerable. Dude, yeah. Carol says, hey, Judy Gardner from Texas. Carol says she love bombed you, Matthew, likely a narcissist. I think she very much so is a narcissist. I explained to her before I allowed her and her daughters into my life that I was fragile and vulnerable. That's in the sort of tough shit department. Um, just because we tell somebody we vulnerable, that's like telling a shark as you're bleeding in the water that now isn't a good time. If you're bleeding in the water and it's a good time for the shark, you're going to get ate. Annie says, in my relationship with a narcissist, the sweet mean cycle was very confusing. Can you speak to that? Um, well, yeah, Annie, I will speak to that. The mean cycle, a healthy person, first of all, a healthy person isn't in a relationship with somebody who has a mean cycle. I mean, nobody's perfect, but um, there's not a vicious regular cycle. So everybody fights, everybody has issues. The responsibility for the issues is never anything other than 50%, 50%. So a healthy person, they stay in touch with their pain and their sadness. And then if the narcissist goes into the sweet cycle, you're still stuck on the mean cycle. You're like, dude, get some help. You need to change. You need to prove to me that you've changed, or I'm out. But a codependent gets suckered in with the sweet cycle again and again and again and again. So that's what I have to say about that. She lied to me. She tricked me. She exploited me. No. Well, she certainly lied to you. True. Uh, you allowed yourself to be tricked, and you allowed yourself to be exploited, which means you were not exploited at all. She used me as a means to an end. You allowed yourself to be used to a means to an end. Then he says, yes, I allowed her. Yes, I allowed my base instincts to cloud my judgment. It's more than that. People don't get together with a narcissist just because of their base instincts or their sexuality. Your sexuality is wired by your psychological woundedness. So uh, it's more. It's not so much that you just want to have sex with them. It's a matter of they are very much like one or both of your parents, and you have a hunger to correct that. You have a hunger to get love from a parental figure who is like your parents. So it isn't just about I got sucked in due to good sex. You got sucked in because you grew up being pounded and abused by your brother. But where were your parents to protect you when your brother was abusing you? Why didn't they protect you? That's the point. Carol says she married her mother. Matthew says, I can vividly see what a damn fool I was in hindsight. And so, Matthew, there, I think you're being too harsh on yourself. This isn't about, hey, Jackie's in the house. What's up? None of us were in our relationship with a narcissist because we were a damn fool. All right? None of us. The reason we're in a relationship with a narcissist is we were raised by narcissists or addicts, or we were abandoned, or we were abused. So you weren't a damn fool. I was in 2008. I was freshly divorced, and I was a therapist. I'd been a therapist in 2008. I'd been a therapist for 21 years. And uh, I got on Match.com, and a gold digging narcissist located me in about, let's say, June, July, in my third month of dating. I had presented myself to a vicious gold digging sex addict narcissist. And, but I did that. I did that to myself. And it wasn't because I was a damn fool. I was a good therapist and a pretty smart guy. But my pretty smart guy wasn't really running the show. The needy, wounded, voracious, abandoned little boy was running the show. So Matthew says, I made myself very clear from the beginning that after the previous 4 years of traumatic events, that I could not bear any more loss or betrayal. Again, narcissists do not give a shit about your sad story of being abused in other relationships. In fact, they start to salivate. That isn't, Matthew, that isn't how the world works. You can't just say, I need you to be nice to a shark. A shark isn't designed to be nice. They're designed sometimes, if they're hungry and if you're available, they're designed to, gobble you up and slice you up and harm you. It's their nature. I told her I was fragile. She promised that she would never do anything really wrong to me. Do you see the thinking that is just so innocent and naive and just not about the real world? Coeb is on just a few weeks of no contact with his or her birth family. She did exactly everything that I was afraid of, everything that I specifically asked her not to do. Narcissists will be true to their natures, and it's your job to protect yourself. Back in 2008, I was a babe in the woods, and I didn't know that such people existed. Narcissists would come into my office, and they would usually con me, and I would usually fall for it, in terms of not seeing who they really were. So I had a guy in tonight who is a self-professed narcissist, and I said, "Are you broken?" And he said he wasn't broken. And I had a pen in my hand and I threw it up in the air and it went flying. Let's okay that statement. Lori, narcissists don't give a shit about your sob story, about your painful past. They only care about their selves, their painful past. Yep. Judy says, I don't date. I don't trust. I'm working to get better and finding out who I am as a person. Amen to that. Matthew says she could not have done a better job of hurting me. She tricked me into trusting her and falling in love with her to satisfy and accomplish her selfish wants and needs and desires. I never trusted my brother. I never loved him. I always saw who he was when he abused me. I was braced for it. I expected it coming from my brother. I cannot understand what I am supposed to be learning by having these relationships. Dude, um, you are supposed to learn that uh, you're broken, that the reason that you picked this woman was you grew up with your brother. And pretty much you're going to be magnetized to every woman who's like your brother. Yeah. Hey, Kelly's in the house. Um, Blanky says, so you have clients who are narcissists. Not very many. And I'm not sure how long this fellow will be around after I'm going to do a feedback session next week. Come to Jesus meeting. I hope he's around next week. I do want to help him and his wife, but I'm going to come with the jackhammer next week and we'll see how it goes. A fire in heart says the light comes in through the cracks. We got to get cracked. We got to get shattered so we can let the light in. So this theory of romantic love explains everything. I tell people that through the years, I tell them I only knew one thing and I only had one skill, but I've been booked as a therapist since 1989, in September of 1989, when I started my private practice. The thing I know is you marry your parents. In this case, he married his brother, which is rare. But who created his brother? His parents. Who let the abuse go on? His parents. The skill I have is in about 80% of the people I work with, I can sell that concept to them to where they're not wallowing in victim mentality. The letter, God bless Matthew, he's just totally engulfed in victim mentality and doesn't see what it all means. He's missing the point of the whole relationship. The relationship was designed to shatter him and to break him. So Matthew says, you stated that this is about me and not them. I understand where you're coming from by that statement. I just cannot understand how I bring this on myself. Dude, you picked her. She started stroking your ego and you opened up your heart and you opened up your body. There were red flags and there were obvious expressions of her danger, and you missed them. I wish I could go back in time myself to my second date with this narcissist I was involved with, because she basically said, hey, you know, if after our second date here you're willing to cancel all your other dates that you have, then hey, you can stay over for the night. And I should have got up and ran out of the building. I mean, it was so obvious that she was a gold digger, but when you're a babe in the woods, when you're a voraciously needy little boy or little girl, you don't see danger coming. He says, I get what I deserve for trusting people. Yeah, Matthew, you absolutely positively got what you deserved. And that may sound harsh, but it's the truth. Many years ago, I was doing group therapy, and a woman was mad at me after group therapy. And she came in, and after group, she said, "Mark, I'm mad at you." And I'm like, "What are you mad at me about?" She says, "It sounds like what you're telling me is I deserve this to have my husband cheat on me." And I said, "Well, now we're getting somewhere. That's exactly what I'm saying. You did deserve it." Um, the old story. I hesitate to tell this because it's old and moldy, and you guys have probably all heard it. But guy's hiking on a mountain, and he comes across a frozen snake, and he's a rescuer. He's like, "Oh, the poor snake. I'm gonna, comfort this snake and try to save his life because he's frozen." And so he takes the snake and he builds a fire. He puts the snake by the fire, and a couple hours later, the snake is fine. The snake is alert, sort of snuggling up against the guy. And all of a sudden, the snake reaches out and bites him right on the neck. And the snake is deadly poisonous. And there's no medical attention available. The guy's got about 10 minutes to live. And the guy goes, "Dude, Mr. Snake, what up? Why on earth did you kill me? You killed me. And I saved your life, and you turn around and kill me. Why in God's name did you do it?" And the snake says, "Well, I'm a snake. That's what we're supposed to do." Yeah, Mr. Snake. So, so, uh, uh, this woman who had her husband had the affair, there was a long history of him doing just that. If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, probably a duck. I'm thinking it's probably a duck. So we all get what we deserve. I was reading this morning. I was taking my medications, and I've got my little sayings on the wall. And Judy says sneaky snakes. And in this case, I don't even know if the snake was sneaky. He was laying there frozen to death. He's frozen. He's just laying there minding his own business. He wasn't sneaky. um, Ginger's digging the shark and the snake analogies. So we all deserve what we get. But one of the little sayings on my medicine chest, it says, basically, I don't remember the words exactly, but it basically said we all create our own happiness or unhappiness. Nobody is in charge of making you happy, and nobody is in charge of making you unhappy, says the man with the pretty wand. So it must be true. Matthew says, "I certainly don't intend to confront you or offend you. I'm just trying to make sense out of my life." I think what I like about Matthew is he's a good writer. And what he's saying, I'm just trying to figure out my life. And the problem with narcissistic abuse syndrome is we get traumatized. And when you're traumatized, it's hard to be objective. Marlene says they shouldn't go out of their way to make you miserable. Yeah, they should, Marlene. That's who the hell they are. That's who they are. You shouldn't get in their way. It's like saying snakes shouldn't bite people, sharks shouldn't bite people, dogs shouldn't bark, birds shouldn't fly. There's this scene in my favorite movie, Silence of the Lambs, where Hannibal is held in this, hey, Jillian, what's up? She was hung up at the doctor's office. So Hannibal is you guys remember this movie, One Picture of the Year. Hannibal Lecter was voted the best bad guy in the history of cinema. Beat out Darth Vader. You know you're a bad guy if you're worse than Darth Vader. So Jodie Foster, Clarice Starling, showed up at this makeshift jail, and she said, "How do I catch the bad guy? How do I catch Buffalo Bill?" And Hannibal said, "You return to first principles." And then he quoted the great Roman emperor, even greater philosopher, Marcus Aurelius. And he said, what is the nature of a thing within itself? What is the nature of this man? What does he do? What is his nature? And Clarice guessed a bunch of guesses that were completely wrong. And Hannibal said, no, he covets. What do you covet? You covet something you see every day. So they knew where to find the guy. That they only had to go find the first body and go look in that town. And sure enough, that's where he was. She found him right there, shot him right in the head. Okay, Marlene, they shouldn't go out of their way to make you miserable. And then she says, yes, but my husband isn't a narcissist. He's an empath. Why is he so mean? Marlene, it's hard for me to answer that because empaths actually can be mean. Why are empaths mean? When an empath or let's call them codependents. I sort of hate the word empath. Michelle Firestone, traumatizing beyond anything I could have ever imagined. The trauma bond alone is crazy. See, I like that, Michelle, because that's the complicated thing about narcissistic abuse. You're traumatized beyond anything you can imagine. So it just goes to reason that you've been victimized, right? You have not been victimized. Nobody in the history of relationships has been victimized when there's consenting adults. When somebody is killed on the first date, they have been victimized. Absolutely. If they got killed by somebody on the first date who they met on Match.com, they have not been victimized. Okay, I'm just trying to make sense out of my life. I'm not in the financial position to seek professional advice. That is why I'm really grateful to you and all the others who give their time, money, and energy to help people they don't even know. This is one of the only positive things I have learned from this nightmare. Thank you all. By the way, I didn't mean to insinuate that you made the communicable disease comment. Sometimes my sarcasm and cynicism doesn't translate well. Okay, so God bless you, Matthew. I know I whacked you in your head, but brother, you needed whacked in the head. If you are able to take this in, it'll change your whole life. I told you the truth. Michelle says the trauma bond is the hardest thing to release from. It's true. A fire in my heart said, I knew it was wrong, but I did it anyway. Fire in heart said, after staying no contact for 2 years, I was doing better for myself, and a false pride, insecurity actually got to me, and I had an urge to show him how much better off I was without him. And then you got smoked. So anyway, I'm going to take a macadamia nut break and nibble on some macadamia nuts. And Do any of you have any questions you want to? Somebody asked about the rubber chicken. The rubber chicken is in South Carolina. So Fernando is not going to wail and sing tonight. So Michelle says he's in prison now for the aggravated abuse. So I know that my philosophy isn't necessarily super popular. If I did this live stream and talked the whole time about narcissism and how evil they are and talk about their various qualities, I would get 10 times the viewership. Because we want to believe in the boogeyman. By the way, has anybody seen John Wick? I never was a John Wick, but I watched the first two, and I found out they called him the boogeyman. And in our culture, we want to blame the boogeyman. We want to blame the narcissist. Gilligan said she bought herself a little lion in the spirit of Fernando the chicken, and she also bought a little prancing tiger. Oh, my little prancing tiger. My lion is to remind me to be strong. Yeah, honey, I do. I really enjoyed the first two John Wick movies. I bring this tiger with me wherever I go. Not wherever I go, whenever I'm working, or whatever desk I'm at, I'm working. I bring my tiger. I bring my heart thing, and I bring my really cool marble. I don't always have my magic wand with me. I have one in Myrtle Beach as well. Okay. Questions. Who has questions? Sarah loves the accountant. I think she means in John Wick. A magical wand. If I just go abracadabra and whack you on the head, it'll cure your codependency. Yeah, it's a wand filled with sparkly stuff. Sometimes you're in a therapy office for 10, 12 hours a day, and you just need to entertain yourself. So I do so. I need questions. Bees has a question. Let me back up. Are they conscious of their behavior? Can they change? Really good question. Oh, the movie with the accountant, Ben Affleck. Got it. Bees, are they conscious of their behavior? It depends on the extremity of the narcissist. It's not you're a narcissist or you're not a narcissist. There's shades of gray, like 100 shades of gray. And I think it's really common for a lot of people. Probably most of us have some percentage of cluster B stuff in us, probably a small percentage. But somebody with a large percentage of narcissism, they have very little self-awareness. They're clueless. They don't know who they are. They don't realize that they're hurting people. And can they change? No, they cannot. An extreme or a moderate narcissist, they're incapable of change. Here's 5 qualities that I look for in my clients, and if they don't got the clients, I can't do a damn thing with them. They have to be motivated to work on themselves. I asked this fella tonight, I said, "You broken?" He goes, "I'm not broken." And I threw my pen up in the air in desperation and in frustration. Um, the second thing is, he says he's here to fix the marriage. Well, fixing a marriage is all about fixing yourself. You can't go to fix your marriage without going to fix yourself. Uh, a person who's going to do effective work, they need to be teachable. Narcissists know everything. You can't teach them anything. The third thing is they have to feel their pain. An intact narcissist has their walls up and they're numbing out on sex or drugs or alcohol or just psychological defendedness. The fourth quality they need to have is they need to be able to trust the therapist. Well, they've never really trusted anybody. They don't know how to trust a therapist. And the last thing is they have to do the homework. So, no, narcissists probably aren't going to change. Jilligan, I went past you accidentally. I have a question. Am I wrong not to want to see my uncle and aunt who basically wrote all of us off years ago because my dad was the alcoholic or the bad kid in the family? It's hard to answer some of these questions. Um, it really is. Um, it just depends on, was your dad an alcoholic bad kid or was he a friggin' monster? Was he a scary narcissist and did they stay away just to save themselves? Or was your dad just the family scapegoat and your aunt, uncle and aunt were the narcissists? So I really can't answer that without really checking this out. Ginger, Mark, do you watch ASMR YouTube videos to help with anxiety and to fall asleep? My wife does. I don't know if they are ASMR, but she watches videos that help her sleep, and they have like really pretty music. What I do is I have my little what is that machine called, honey? It's with Alexa. I forget the disc thing, and I say, Alexa, play thunderstorm sounds, and then it like makes thunderstorm sounds. It makes me very sleepy. A fire in hearts says the one does not light up, Jackie. It sparkles if you'll put it close to the light. I can't really get it very close to the light. It sparkled, but doesn't want to light up. If I had a lit up one, that would be quite cool. Okay. Fire and hearts. I had periods where I looked deep within and took responsibility and forgave him and literally felt weight off my shoulders in my being. Then in a matter of minutes, I felt like I could breathe again. That's a good comment. That's a really powerful comment. So let me back up here. IHACOEB. I can't know how to say that. It's so hard to understand the way an extreme narcissist thinks. It's really not. It's really pretty simple to understand how an extreme narcissist thinks, but it's the wrong thing for us to really want to know. The thing that we should be focusing on is how do we think? You guys saw the wrong thinking in Matthew's email. Okay. Blanky says, I don't believe they can change. You can't say a person with a type 1 diabetes will change and not be diabetic anymore. They're sick in the head. Kelly says, question. Mark, I tend to be intimidated by men, but not all men. But it bothers me, and I don't know why. Again, it's hard to answer some of these questions. Or um, was your father a scary man, Kelly? Was he intimidating and scary? Uh, that would be my guess. Um, Rise and shine. Hi, Rise and shine. Question: what is your prognosis of the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle marriage, given their backgrounds? He lost his mother at an early age, and she was a caretaker of her dad. Um, I mean, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle probably aren't that much different than the average person. And the prognosis of an average person having a 50-year happy marriage is right at 0% of having a happy marriage for 50 years. Um, so, no, they're just normal, dysfunctional British people. Um, so I don't like their chances. Mark, thank you for what you are doing. You're most welcome, Michelle. Uh, Ginger says, Brenda, I love those videos too. Now I can fall asleep without them. The Tibetan singing bowls are the best. It's like getting a brain massage. Sweet. Echo Dot, that's what I was thinking of. Okay, I'm trying to stay up with all the comments. I'm a little tired tonight. I went to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke up at 6. I have so much energy on this uh, keto diet. I just got up and got moving. So I'm a little tired after clients all day long. Okay. Oh, call you Rachel. Okay, Rachel. How do you heal the wounded child? I'm the scapegoat in my family to 4 extreme narcissists, and I'm the extreme empath. That's a lot of questions there, Rachel. Um, how do you heal the wounded child? Um, Recovery works by first getting your defense mechanisms dismantled. The second aspect of recovery is you gain a lot of insight. Hopefully you start watching YouTube videos, and you read books and listen to books, and you go to a really good therapist and you learn stuff. The third part of healing the wounded child is tears, crying, tearing up, weeping and weeping and weeping and weeping. I think in most people that there are hundreds of thousands of uncried tears. And that's how people change. That's how they heal their wounded inner child. They get blown up, they have somebody turn on the light, and then they weep and weep and weep, and they get in touch with their anger. Being the scapegoat to a family of 4 extreme narcissists, unfortunately, you got to leave the family in your case. And you've got to get cured of being an extreme empath. Being an empath, again, I don't like the term. It's a lovely word, but if you're not protecting yourself and you're hanging around 4 sharks and getting gnawed on, let's call it what it is. It's codependency. Kelly says, my dad left when I was 4, and my stepdad was gruff and not super invested, yet he raised us and gave us a home. My grandpa was a gentle soul, and I looked up to him. So there's your answer, Kelly, is your stepdad was gruff and not super invested. So men aren't going to seem very safe. A heart in a fire in hearts. Bleh. Do you see anybody who comes from more healthy families? I do not. I've never worked with anybody from a healthy family. Do healthy families just not come to therapy? Nope, they don't exist. Healthy families do not exist. The national average, okay, from 1 to 10, with 10 being perfect, the national average is about 3. The international average is about 3. So I've never met a 7. I think I met a 6 once, but most people I meet are about a 3. Carol says time, tears, talking, learning. A fire in heart says, I feel that she does see healthy families, but for whatever reason, I was selectively mute until age 14 and when I was sent to a therapeutic school. You have to tell us more about that. Marlene says she's cried enough to fill up a stadium, but she feels good today, and it's amazing. Well, good for you, Marlene, that you've cried enough to fill up a stadium. I once on a video said I'd cried millions of tears over this shattering in April of 2015. I think it probably wasn't. It's probably in the hundreds of thousands. Probably wasn't million. So, uh, so Blanky is suggesting Melody Beatty's great book, Codependency No More. Actually, I think it's called Codependent No More. Kelly says, thanks, Mark. I guess it makes sense. I never really had a father figure that I felt safe with. 3 as in not very much on a scale 10. Yep. National average. If somebody, the healthiest families I've ever met, honestly, in my work, probably about a 3.5. And the unhealthiest families, probably about 2.5. We're in a short little range there, but everybody's pretty fucked up. That's the truth. A fire in hearts. I wonder whether most mothers having to go to work mixed with public school systems may have something to do with this, the problems. I don't know. I've often wondered why the human condition is what it is. Why does it have to be so hard? Why? Why did my dad, his mother was 12 when he was born. His father was 38 when he was born. His father went to prison eventually for statutory rape. That's his story. And then his mother married a man who beat him. So my dad was a hapless Mr. Nice Guy codependent who went off to the Air Force. And between the Air Force and being a mailman, it saved him. But then he picked a dangerous narcissist in my mother. And she married him 3 times and divorced him 3 times. She married him for money all 3 times. He didn't have much, but he had more than her. Why? Why did my mother's mother get involved with the family she was the nanny for when she was 19 and become pregnant with my mother? And why was my mother spend the first 3 years of her life in an orphanage? And then my grandmother married my grandfather, who was a wicked Dutch thuggish bully of a narcissist. Why? And I do these family trees, and some of the stories are more horrible than mine, and most of them are less horrible, but everybody's I've ever met is pretty friggin' horrible. Then there's the families that are too close. You know what their dysfunction is? They love each other too much, and they don't give each other space, and they end up marrying Charles Manson. They end up marrying the friggin' devil. They thought they grew up with the Waltons, and they grow up and marry the devil. And then they wonder, well, I grew up in such a wonderful, loving home. You grew up with a home that didn't have any boundaries, that had wounded, needy people who latched on to you, and their agenda was really more about themselves than it was about you being individuated. This is about individuation. A fire in hearts. I think I'm wanting scapegoats. I'm wanting scapegoats. Truly, I'm privileged. Modern society can be good in many ways. You know what? I think we live in magical times. Here I am in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm speaking to people all over the country, probably some people in another country. How cool is that? And you can get access to really good therapists on YouTube for free. That's cool. Sovereign dirt. Spiritual wounding equals getting bad grades in the fourth grade, made to destroy a newly won presidential award and patch, made to cut your hair, restricted to your room for a whole summer, eating in your room, working on Christian workbooks. So you were made to destroy a newly won presidential award and patch. That is spiritual wounding. Jilligan, or Jackie says to Jilligan, her report card used to say, Jackie is far too quiet in class. My report cards would only say, Mark is a nice boy, which basically they were saying I was a lost child, that I was shy, I was introverted. I didn't give anybody any trouble, but they were sort of saying, he's really not all that smart. He's nice, ain't that smart. Okay. I find it hard to believe that Jackie was too quiet in class, by the way. A fire in hearts. Thank you for your responses. And I feel truly society is much the same as it ever was. At least at the core. Yes, I marvel at times, at the times we live in, often mention it to others. I think maybe protecting my own want to have more gratitude. I got to tell you, folks, I've been feeling a lot of gratitude lately. I just feel really blessed, and not everything is going peachy keen in life. Life's hard, but if you have good health, and you have good energy, and you have recovery, and if you have a partner who's doing the work, and if you have a dog like Mr. Polly, then and you live close to the beach, you got a lot to be grateful for. Okay. Jilligan says, I think a lot of quiet, withdrawn kids are really hurting inside. That was my story. I didn't say much. Sergio Cisneros Martinez, what a cool name you have. Yes, it's pretty cool to listen to guys like you just for free. Greetings from Mexico. Awesome. That is so cool. Welcome. Um, Sovereign Dirt. Yes, it is spiritual wounding. Thank you for validation for a change. Um, Sometimes we don't get much validation. Kelly says, my report card says Kelly talks too much. Brenda says that her report card said that she talked too much until the third grade. And then bad things happen in the third grade. Well, we've got a little bit of time left. Jillian says, I like your office, the colors and all. It's very nice. This color of gray, it's called, the name of the gray is past and present. We thought that was a pretty friggin' cool name for a paint. Jackie's just making up for lost time with her talking now. I do have another question to respond to, so I'm going to get after that. Okay. Another question I'm going to respond to. I'm not going to say the guy's name. We'll call him Mike again. There's a different Mike. Mark, I am so desperate for help. I have a wife that pretty clearly has undiagnosed OCPD, and it took me 6 years to figure out it's not me and it's not my fault. So another reason your video resonated with me is that your relationship is similar to mine. So I don't like the word fault, okay? I like the word responsibility. It's nobody's fault in a marriage. It's nobody's fault. But it's your life. Your life is 100% your responsibility and nobody else's. I also have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and the rage their mother displays is flat out abuse, and she won't stop, and she won't acknowledge a problem, and she won't get help because, of course, she doesn't believe in therapy. Knowing everything I know, it's also obvious to me her mother has undiagnosed borderline personality disorder, and makes so much sense how she ended up unable to have a real relationship or work in relationship skills. I am so stuck. I hope I have an opportunity to get your thoughts and talk about options for myself to cope, if you would be so kind. Ivan, oh, I slipped out his name. Y'all didn't hear that. This guy, Mike, says, I can't tell you how much your story helped inspire me, and probably countless others you probably just haven't heard from would agree with that. Jackie says this story sounds familiar. Thank you for your kind words. I said to the guy, I told him to come join the live stream. Mark, I might be able to do a Skype meeting soon. I have a new business and cash is tight, but it could turn around. I would love to tune in Tuesday at 8 p.m. Didn't really start till about 8:30. Part of it, I have Mr. Polly with me, and I brought him outside. And he took forever to take care of his business. Okay. You noted somewhere, I think, that we are not taught to recognize these traits. And that's so true. And even after I did, nobody seems to understand or believe me. Isn't that frustrating when you've been traumatized so viciously, and you're trying to communicate the intensity of the trauma, and people look at you, oh, you just had a breakup. Ah! No, I had a breakup times a million. That's what I had. Okay. And even after I did, nobody seems to understand and believe me. And I don't plan to divorce my wife in spite of all the negative consequences I've been through, including an arrest for breaking her cell phone because I was so lost and frustrated I couldn't take it anymore, feeling helpless and hopeless with no way out for me and my kids. I sort of, to be honest, I got a little bit tickled by that. He got arrested for breaking a cell phone. Is that cell phone and battery? Is it what was the charge there? Assault upon a cell phone? I don't know. Um, I'm not trying to make fun of this fellow's pain or situation, but it just sort of, how do you get arrested for breaking a cell phone? Maybe you can. Maybe there are laws protecting cell phones. I don't know. I don't plan to divorce her, but for those who go that route, I'm not sure I would even be able to recognize the signs of a narcissist the next time around. I don't think I knew until I was long in it, though looking back, there were some signs. Even a therapist I went to for a year with 3 marriage counselors over a year and a half, none of them suggested it might be a personality disorder or an individual issue that needs to be resolved for making any progress in a relationship. Most marriage counselors really suck because they're trying to fix the marriage, and that's the wrong thing to do. I'll be with your questions and comments in just a bit, folks. Let me finish this up here. So he went to therapists and nobody helped him. I just figured it out on my own, watching many wonderful YouTube videos. Thank the good Lord. And there's no resources readily available to point me in the right direction in my town of Atlanta. It's good these days that there are more options. You know what? There probably are some skillful therapists in Atlanta. Atlanta's a big town. And I was working with a client the other day who's in social work school, and she actually has a class about trauma. The class covers trauma. How amazing is that? Because when I was in graduate school, there never was such a class. Okay. Thank you so much. An internet forum, and you are a wonderful relief to know someone will understand and will have some useful thoughts. It's worth much more than $175 an hour, I can tell you that. Okay, so I hope this fellow is with us. So here's the thing, Mike. The thing is, if somebody's not willing to change, and if somebody isn't safe, let's say you had an employee in your business and they're not willing to change, and they're unaccountable, and they're unsafe, you have no choice but to fire them. And so let's say this woman is an undiagnosed borderline who's abusing and raging and, causing all these issues. The only possible healthy choice is to fire her. The power that you have is in your feet. You walk away. Some people say, well, I don't want to do that to my kids. Would it be better that they're brought up by an out of control, extreme borderline who's raging at them? I do not think that would be in her best interest, in their best interest at all. Okay, so where's the fire in your belly, Mike? Where's your anger? Where's your sense of personal integrity? You're a codependent. I want you to read a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. Okay? No More Mr. Nice Guy. Okay, I already said this, guys. Mike is Ivan. Ivan is Mike. He did give me permission to share this. So I hope that was helpful. But No More Mr. Nice Guy by a guy named Robert Glover. A great book, and you need to check it out and ingest it as much as you possibly can. Okay. Okay. Where did my little thing go? Okay. A Fire and Heart says something I heard someone say concerning responsibility was defining it as an ability to respond appropriate things, which makes sense. Marlene says she can relate to a cell phone and then ending up in jail. Sovereign Dirt, bang, bang, he was reaching out. I'm not sure, Sovereign Dirt, what that means. He's reaching out. Sharon, question, how do you define trauma? That's a really good question. If I were a doctor, trauma would be an injury to my body. But when we talk about psychological trauma, it's a shock. It's a wound to your living tissue in your body. It's brain damage. It's very physiological. It's being shattered emotionally. And then you're very prone to being triggered and going through the same thing all over again. I was triggered by such things as red trucks and bananas, even. There were multiple things. A certain brand of car would trigger me, and then the trauma would, be relived over and over and over again. Jackie says, I've learned so much from you and Renda and Jerry. I always remember that you say it is like death, that we have to go through the same stages until we heal. My wife says, good night, everybody. I have a client to get to. Good night, honey. Jackie's enjoying Sergio Cisneros Martinez. I wish that was my name. Mark Smith? Kidding me? How boring is that? I want to be Sergio Cisneros Martinez. Much cooler name. Jillian, Mark, can a codependent reach her max and finally blow up? A codependent always will reach their max and blow up. Just a matter of time. Might take a year. It might take 50 years. But yep, they're gonna blow. That's what happens is a narcissist will pick an antitype. They'll pick the nicest, sweetest, kindest, most adoring, prettiest codependent they could find. And then eventually that codependent goes into rages because they're filled with resentment, and they act like the narcissist daddy did, or their narcissistic mother. Okay. Jilligan, I get triggered by people who smoke cigarettes. And I know it's not fair. I just linked cigarettes and alcohol abuse when I was a kid. It is fair. There's nothing unfair, Jilligan, about that. Jilligan says she hates her first name. Her name is Frances. My younger brother Sammy, was bad enough for a first name, but his middle name was Francis. And my older brother and I, um, we called him Francis. Francis. So sorry, Jill. I didn't mean to make fun of your name, but my older brother also my middle name is Edward. He would call me Ed Weirdo. Jackie, your name isn't boring. Jackie? Oh, what your last name is? Um, Sergio Cisneros Martinez, the perfect name for a Mexican Latin lover. Dude, seriously, I agree with you. I'm a married man, so my name can't be Sergio Cisneros Martinez. It would cause too much trouble, I'm pretty sure. I love the name Jackie, and I like the name Gilligan. It's a very cool name. A fire in hearts. I got very self righteous and ranted at him after going back with a newfound awareness. I'm lucky he didn't get violent, and I'm not proud of it. The first time I felt my anger. That's why you picked him. He's in your life to provoke you to find your voice and to provoke you to find your power. So, really, what I try to get people to do is to shift from victim mentality and obsession with narcissists and shift their focus on uh, looking in the mirror. And there's only one person you've got any shot at really changing and fixing, and that's your own self. That's the only one you got any shot of changing. A fire in heart says, in retrospect, I feel I was more angry with myself. And I talk with people like that, and I try to tell them, don't be angry with you either. Don't blame the narcissist for all your issues, but also don't blame you. You know who you blame? Don't blame anyway. You know who you hold responsible? Your mommy and your daddy. That's who you hold responsible because they're the ones who should be responsible. They are the architects of the family. Sovereign Dirt, I've been calling out what my parents are doing and contradicting them more. Feelers went out right away for a new golden child, even a stranger met on a train. So, Sovereign Dirt, you were the golden child, and then you went to calling people out, and you got replaced by a stranger on a train. That sounds like it. Sounds like it. Gilligan likes names like Elizabeth or Victoria, power names of grace and dignity. I was out in San Francisco. I hope my son doesn't watch this video. He says he watches some of my son is an amazing young man. He's 29. He's amazing. I have so much respect for him. He came home from San Francisco to Indianapolis and spent a week sort of connecting with and helping his sister who suffers from bipolar disorder. But he's getting married in November to an awesome young lady, and they're starting to talk about names of little girls and little boys, and the name for the little girl comes from John Wick, Keanu Reeves. Um, so what do you? I don't. I love my son. I love my future daughter-in-law. I love Keanu Reeves. I love John Wick. I'm not sold on Keanu for a girl, but that's just me. But I hope my son doesn't watch this because then I'll be in trouble. But it just came up. So we're talking about names. Sarah says my name means Prince's Gift of God. I think Mark means mighty warrior. And I am that. I got courage on one arm and Superman on the other. I got a big scary tiger right here. I have the word beast right here. So one of my favorite videos that I made little town on a river. I'm spacing the name. It's where my therapist was. A little town in Michigan. And I was on the river, and there was this horrible thunderstorm. And I was out of the rain, but the thunderstorm was cracking loud. You can barely hear me. And I was speaking on being a mighty warrior. And I would say something, and the thunder would just crack really loud. Martha says, how about Kiana? They didn't mention Kiana. Keanu. I think whatever my son and his new wife picked, I will adore that child and love them completely. Sergio Cisneros Martinez says, self-love is the key. It may sound egotistical because we were raised by narcissists that told us that thinking about ourselves was something bad. But in my experience, that has been the key, self-love. Sergio Martinez, Cisneros Martinez, is not only good looking and has a really cool name, he's really healthy and smart. It sounds like to me. So self-love is very, 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 very important. Okay. So it's about that time to wrap up. I'm going to put away my magic wand. I'm going to gather up Mr. Pauly. I'm going to get in my wife's Honda Pilot, and I'm going to head east on 86th Street to the condo, and I'm going to eat some fish and eat some salad, as I'm prone to do on this diet. Sergio Cisneros Martinez says he's a huge Superman fan too. You know, the truth is, I'm really not a huge Superman fan. The reason I have Superman here and Superman here is, in order to survive narcissistic abuse to the level that I felt it, and I know many of you felt it, it took a badass son of a bitch. It took a mighty warrior to just survive it. It's so overpoweringly unspeakable, the level of pain, just rippling through your body for months and years. Jilligan says, hello to Mr. Pauly. My puppy is getting old. She's not doing so well. I'm sorry to hear that. Mr. Pauly is getting old, and he is not doing super well. He still gets around, but it takes him a while. Sometimes he can't lift his butt off the floor. And you got to reach down, you got to lift his butt up in the air. And my wife, sometimes he puts diapers on him. And I'm not criticizing that. She needs to, because he pees all over the rug. Jackie Alcatraz was friggin' awesome. San Francisco was amazing. It was like the best trip of my life. I think it was maybe the best trip of my wife's life. The coolest thing was we got this thing called a Cargo, I think it's called, or Go Car. And it was basically a motorcycle that was outfitted with a little cart, looked like a bumper car. And Renda did all the driving of the motorcycle, and we tore San Francisco up. We went to everything, and we could park anywhere, and it was friggin' awesome. San Francisco is just a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous town. We rode the cable car. On our first ride of the cable car, all the guys who worked there were narcissists and grumpy britches, and they were just mean and harsh and controlling, and it made it not so good of an experience. But then on the way back, we had a human being who was funny and who had a lot of joy. He was our engineer, and he made the whole trip magnificent. You see how having 2 or 3 narcissists and 2 or 3 flying monkeys can turn what should be more fun than riding a cable car in San Francisco. They made it like being in Nazi Germany. I was on the cable car and I was singing Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat. That should be a fun moment. But on the way back, the guy was just amazing and wonderful and really fun. Okay, so I love y'all, and I enjoyed our meeting. I don't know if I made a lot of sense tonight. I'm really tired. I think that the 2 letters I read made it sort of easy to give some responses. Ginger says, I'm 16 months abuse-free, but I am in the is this all there is part of my life. My brain is still decompressing from the high bad energy and learning to love the quiet. Hey, that's beautiful. My brain is still decompressing from the high bad energy, and I'm learning to love the quiet. A big part of recovery is learning to love the quiet. Jackie says, Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat, that she sings it while she makes Rice-A-Roni. Marlene says, you were amazing tonight, Mark. I don't know about all that, but I had fun, and I played with my magic wand, and I ate macadamia nuts. So there's that. Okay, so if you didn't watch the first Narcissistic Abuse is Spiritual Wounding, then check it out. It's me responding to Mike. Not Ivan Mike, but Mike. Matthew Mike. Okay. Thank you for watching, everybody. I'm going to get Mr. Pauly, and we're going to head home. In 2 weeks, it'll either be me or Renda doing the show. I'm going to try to talk Renda into doing the show in 2 weeks. Honey, she's with a client. I can't ask her. But Sovereign Dirt says, I hate the quiet. I constantly have YouTube playing. Well, God bless you, Sovereign Dirt. Maybe you're not ready for the quiet. That's okay. It's okay to have YouTube playing something. Jackie says, thanks for all the great videos and live streams. Much appreciated. Okay, I'm out of here. Peace. We'll see y'all in 2 weeks.